everyone, I'm Via, and welcome back to Cardiac Reading for Teens. For those of you who might not know, Cardiac Reading for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about spiritual teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense and relates to us in modern-day society today as teenagers. For almost a year now, we've been reading through the Spirits book together, going page by page, question by question, to try and fully understand what they're saying and make it relatable to what we're living today in our day-to-day lives. We left off last week still in the chapter Return to Corporeal Life, and we were talking about forgetfulness of the past and why we forget the past, our past existences, and why it's a good thing, or why some people want it, but they really shouldn't have it. So we left off in the middle of that section. So if you did not listen last week, I suggest you go back and listen to it so you get the beginning part of it. So we left off on question 399. Since the tribulations of corporeal life are at the same time expiations for past wrongs and trials for the future, does it follow that, from the nature of these tribulations, we may deduce the kind of preceding existences we live? So what they're saying here is that in past, whatever trials we're going through right now, we know that it's because of something we did in our past lives. So from that, are we able to kind of think of what we did in our past life? So if we're suffering the consequences now, maybe from the consequences can we look back and kind of realize what we did wrong in our past life? And the Spirit said, very frequently, because individuals are punished for their particular sins. Nevertheless, we cannot make this an absolute rule. And instinctive tendencies are a more certain indication because the trials that a spirit undergoes refer as much to the future as to the past. So what they're saying here is that a lot of time this is the case, and you can see what you did in your past by looking at what you're suffering through now. But we can't make this an absolute rule. We can't say that happens for a fact every single time. We only know that this happens sometimes. And they also said that sometimes we're going through something so that we'll be ready for something that's going to come in the future. So maybe it's not always leading back from the past. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in, and he says, when the end that Providence has marked for their errant life has arrived, spirits choose for themselves the trials in which they desire to submit themselves, and which will hasten their advancement. That is, the kind of existence they believe most appropriate for furnishing them with the means to evolve, and such trials are always related to the wrongs they must expiate. If they triumph over them, they advance. If they succumb, they have to start over. So here Allan Kardec is saying that when the spirit is going to reincarnate, it picks which kind of trials it's going to want to overcome and what it's going to try and do in this next existence. These trials that they have to fix and make up for are always something that they did in the past. So they did something wrong in the past and they say, okay, in this life I want to overcome it. And then in this life, if they do, that's great and they can move on, or if not, they have to start over and try again. And then Allan Kardec continued, spirits also enjoy their free will. It is in virtue of this freedom that in the spirit state they choose the trials of their upcoming corporeal life, and in the incarnate state they deliberate over what will or will not do, choosing between good and evil. Denying humans their free will would reduce them to the conditions of a machine. So, in the spirit world, we have this free will, and we have this freedom to choose which kind of trials we want to overcome. And in the corporeal world, in the human state that we're in right now, we also have the choice to choose what we are going to do and what we're not. And then Allan Kardec continues, and he says, integrated into corporeal life, spirits momentarily lose the remembrance of their former lives, as though a veil hid them. Nevertheless, they sometimes have a vague awareness of them, and they may even be revealed under certain circumstances. However, this does not happen except by the will of the higher-order spirits, who may allow it to occur spontaneously for some useful purpose, but never to satisfy vain curiosity. So what he's saying here is that when you incarnate and you come to a corporeal world like Earth, it's like a veil went over your memories. They're just kind of foggy. They just put them in a back closet, and you just can't get into them right now. But sometimes you have vague memories of it. And also, sometimes you might have an actual memory revealed to you if it's necessary. They're not going to reveal just any random memory that's not important to you or that you don't need. if it's useful and if it's going to help you, then they will reveal it. Then Allan Kardec continues, of course, future existences cannot be revealed in any case, since that depends both on the manner in which the present existence is completed and the latter choice of the spirit. So sometimes we can see into our past existences, but we can never look into our future existences because it's not certain yet. Because we don't know how far we're going to get in this life. We don't know how much we're going to accomplish or how much wrong we're going to do in this life. And we also don't know what our spirit's trials are going to be when we're in the spirit world and we're trying to pick which trials we want to overcome. We don't know which ones we're going to choose yet. So we can't look into the future. And then Allan Kardec continues, forgetfulness of wrongs that were committed is not an obstacle to spirits' improvement, because even though they do not have a precise memory of them, the knowledge they had of them during the errant state, in addition to the desire they conceived at the time to repair them, guided them through their intuition and inspired them with the thought of resisting evil. This thought is the voice of conscience, and it is seconded by spirits who will assist them if they heed their good suggestions. So Allan Kardec is saying here that forgetting our past isn't hindering us. It's not a problem, because some people may think that it's a problem and that how can we improve if we don't remember what we did. But it's not a problem. It's helping us. And it's not like we forget everything that we learned. The good that we learn, it's still in us, and that's like our conscience talking to us. So we've learned something. So in our conscience, it's telling us, oh, that's bad, or oh, that hurts. Like but once you put your hands over a fire and you see that's hot, you don't try and do it again because you realize, oh, that's hot. So you still have that. You don't have to do it again to remember. So it's like this conscious feeling, thinking, oh, in the back of my head, thinking, oh, if I touch that fire, it's going to get hot. But you don't have to do it anymore or actually remember getting burned to know that. And also, if you do need a little extra help, the spirits will be there assisting you and kind of putting ideas in your head, kind of like it's your conscious, putting them in your head so that hopefully you can expand on that idea and apply it to your actual life. And then Allan Kardec continues, even though people do not know the acts they committed in their previous lives, they can nonetheless always know the kind of wrongs for which they became guilty and what their dominant characters were. They only have to study themselves in the present, and they will be able to discern what they were in the past, not by what they were per se, but their tendencies. So here they're saying that you can't always know exactly what happened, detail by detail, but you can have ideas of what happened because of what you're living right now and who you are right now. From who you are right now, you can kind of reason back to what you might have been in a previous life. And keeping in mind that this life is our best life. This is the best that we have ever been. And Allan Kardec continues for a little bit more, and he says, the tribulations of corporeal life are at the same time expiations for past wrongs and trials for the future. They purify and elevate us if we endure them with resignation and without complaint. So these trials, they're helping us, and they're helping us improve, and no matter what it is and how hard it might seem, it's helping purify us, and it's helping elevate us and making us into better people. And then for the final paragraph that Allan Kardec put in this part, he says, the nature of the trials and tribulations we undergo may also enlighten us about what we were and what we did, as in this world we judge the acts of a criminal by the punishments of the law inflicted on him or herself. Thus, those who were proud will be punished by humiliation of the subalternate position, the self-indulgent and greedy by poverty, those who were harsh towards others by the harsh treatments they themselves suffer, the tyrant by slavery, the bad son by ingratitude of his own children, the lazy by forced work, etc. So here they're saying that what we have to go through is based off of what we did in a previous life. So they said, so just like us being punished for a crime that we did. So if you were very proud and showed it off, then you're going to have some sort of humiliation. If you were very greedy, then you're gonna face some type of poverty. If you were a tyrant, if you were a king and you were mean or used your power badly, then maybe by slavery. Or if you were a bad son, then you're gonna come back and you're gonna have children that don't listen to you. Or if you're lazy, you're going to have to be forced to work. And there's a number of things like this. So a lot of what we go through right now can tell us some things about our past. And this is the end of the section, forgetfulness of the past. And now we're on to the next chapter as well, chapter 8. And this chapter is called The Emancipation of the Soul. So the meaning of the word emancipation is the fact or process of being set free from legal, social, or political restraints. Liberation. So the emancipation. So we just talked about returning to corporeal life. Now we're going to be talking about emancipation. So freeing the soul, basically. So this first part that we're going to talk about is titled Sleep and Dreams. Question 400. Does an incarnate spirit willingly stay in its corporeal envelope? And the spirits answered, that is like asking if a prisoner is happy being under lock and key. An incarnate spirit constantly aspires to freedom. The denser the envelope, the more it wants to be freed of it. So they're saying, so the incarnate spirit, the spirit on earth, does it care staying in this like material body, this corporeal envelope? Does it care? And the spirit said, do prisoners like to be locked up? No, of course not. So the spirits don't like to be in this material body. They feel like they're trapped. They feel like they're locked. And when it's a less evolved world and the material is very dense, it's even worse for them. They want to be freed from it. But of course we know that they have to stay in that, just like prisoners have to stay in the prison. Question 401. During sleep, does the soul rest like the body? So, does the soul, the spirit, does it rest just like the body does? And the spirit said, no, a spirit never remains inactive. During sleep, the bonds that join it to the body are loosened, and since the body does not need it while sleeping, the spirit travels through space and it enters into a more direct relationship with other spirits. So what they're saying here is that, no, the spirit, your soul, it's never sleeping because it's never inactive. It's always doing something. So during sleep, when your body doesn't really need the soul, the spirit travels. The bonds are loosened. They're not broken completely. They're loosened, and it's like a string unraveling. So the string unravels a little bit, so now the spirit can travel and can come in contact, some more direct contact with other spirits. Question 402. How can we confirm the fact that a spirit is free during sleep? So, quite simple. So how do we know for a fact that the spirit is not attached to the body, well, very closely attached to the body? And for one little sentence of a question, the spirits gave a very, very long answer, so we'll go through it piece by piece, trying to break it up so we fully understand it. So the spirits start off by saying, by dreams. While the body rests, the spirit enjoys more of its faculties than in the waking state. It remembers the past and sometimes foresees the future. It acquires more power and can communicate with other spirits, whether on this world or another. You frequently say, I had a bizarre dream, a horrible dream, but there is no likelihood of it being true. You are mistaken. It is almost always a memory of places and things which you have seen, or which you will see in another existence or on another occasion. Since the body is dormant, the spirit tries to break its chains in order to probe it into the past and future. So how do we know? How can we confirm that the spirit travels and goes away from the body? It's by our dreams. So when this body is resting, the spirit kind of has like some free time, has some fun time, and they aren't solely constrained to this being really close to this physical body. They can go a little further away, and they said that they can see spirits on this world or even other worlds. And when you say like, oh, I had the weird dream, this would never happen, maybe they said that almost always it's something that your spirit saw or your spirit did, or something that might have happened in your past or will happen in your future, or it's something related to your spirit and what they're going through and thinking about. And then the spirits continue. Poor human beings, you know so little about the most ordinary phenomena of life. You believe you are very wise, Yet the most ordinary things puzzle you to no end. To the question of all children, what do we do when we sleep? What are dreams? You remain without an answer. So here the spirits in this paragraph, they kind of mocked us. They kind of said, you think you're so smart and you study all this stuff, but simple things like dreams you still don't understand. Children ask what dreams are and you still don't have an answer. And then they continue. Sleep partially frees the soul from the body. When humans sleep, they momentarily find themselves in the state which they will be permanently after death. Spirits who quickly free themselves from matter upon death had intelligent dreams during early earthly life. Such spirits, while their body is sleeping, rejoin the company of those who are more evolved. They travel with, converse with, and learn from them. They even work on projects that they find completed upon dying. From these facts, you should once more learn not to fear death, because you die daily, as a saint once stated. So during sleep, the soul is partially separated. So we don't think that it's completely separated. It's only partially separated, but there is this bit of separation. And they said, so when the spirit is traveling further away, it's kind of like what you find when the material body is dead. It's like sleep is like a little mini momentarily death, basically, is what they're saying here. And when you die, that's the state that it's going to be in, but just, well, for your human body forever. And so they're saying here that if you're doing good things in this sleep time, if your spirit's doing good things, they're meeting up with more evolved spirits. They're learning things, they're traveling, they're seeing things, they're trying to fix things, have projects, and they're learning even while we're sleeping. And then the spirits continue. This applies only to more highly evolved spirits, however. The mass of spirits, who at death must remain in a state of confusion for some time, that uncertainty of which we have already spoken to you, either go to worlds even less evolved than Earth, where former affections call to them, or where they seek out pleasures that are perhaps even baser than those they indulge in here. So what they're saying here is those spirits who look to learn and to travel and to do good things, those are really the highly evolved spirits. And the massive spirits, however, like most people, like the average spirit, you can say, they either go to worlds that are less evolved or kind of on the same evolution. And they kind of look to just like play around or indulge in stuff that they don't have on Earth and stuff like that. The spirits continue. They go to take in doctrines even viler, more ignoble, and more nauseous than those they profess among you. What engenders sympathy on earth is nothing other than the fact that upon awakening they feel links to the heart of those with whom they have just spent 8 or 9 hours of happiness or pleasure. Moreover, the insuperable antipathies they feel at the bottom of our heart for certain individuals may be explained by the fact that they have a consciousness that is different from their own. They recognize these individuals without having ever seen them before. It is furthermore what explains people's indifference when they do not seek to make new friends. They know that those who love and cherish them are elsewhere. In a word, sleep has more influence on you than you think. So what they're saying here is that spirits, when they're sleeping, they go to different places, they see different people, and whether it's for worse or for better, it's a big part of our lives. So when we think that we're wasting our time sleeping, or when you're not getting enough sleep, it's really time for the body, the material body, to recuperate, because our material body needs that. But it's also for our spirit to go out and learn things and see things and do things that they don't do while very closely attached to us. And this last sentence here, I think, is really sums it up. And they say, in a word, sleep has more influence than you think on your life. So sleep actually plays a big role in our lives, and we think that it doesn't really matter and it's a waste of time, but it's really important actually. And then the spirits continue. During sleep, incarnate spirits are always in touch with the spirit world, and that is what leads higher order spirits without too much aversion, to consent to incarnate among you. During their contact with earthly vices, God grants them the freedom to re-strengthen themselves during sleep, at the source of good, in order to not fail in their commitment to instruct others. Sleep is the door that God opens for them for contacting their friends in heaven. It is their break after work while they await the great deliverance, the final liberation. They must restore them to their true environment. So here they're saying about higher order spirits. So when higher order spirits come to help us, to help the world evolve, we can talk about our main guide, Jesus, when he came, but also others like Mother Teresa and Socrates and Martin Luther King Jr. and other very important souls that came to help Earth progress. These people, they're saying how what helps them be convinced to come here is that they have this time to go back and to be in the spirit world with more highly evolved spirits again, because they're coming down to a level much lower than their own, because they are so highly evolved. So they're coming down very far, and so they need that time to be up with the highly evolved spirits again, and to gain strength and knowledge, and to help them help us. Then the spirits continue. A dream is the memory of what your spirit has seen during sleep. However, notice that you do not always dream, because you do not always remember what you have seen, or everything that you have seen. This happens because your soul is still under development, so that frequently you retain nothing more than the confused memory that accompanies your departure and your return, which is mixed in with the memory of what you have done or what concerns you have had while awake. Otherwise, how do you explain those absurd dreams that both the wisest and simplest individuals endure? Evil spirits also use dreams to torment weak and cowardly souls. So what they're saying here, so dreams is memories of the night of what we've done. So it's a memory of what our spirit was seeing, but sometimes we don't always remember what we saw. Sometimes you wake up and you don't remember at all what you dreamed. So you didn't remember any of it. And sometimes you only remember bits and pieces of it, because maybe you're not supposed to remember the whole thing, or you're not supposed to see the whole thing that our souls saw. And they're saying here, right when you're about to fall asleep, or when you're waking up, there's this time where you're kind of, like, let's say, like the soul is on that string that we were talking about before, it's unwinding. It's not unwinded yet. So those dreams may be more related to exactly what we were concerned about, or exactly what is happening in our lives. But once that string unravels and the spirit can go further away, then that is what the spirit is seeing and doing and going through. But that part, a lot of us don't remember every day. And another situation that there is that evil spirits may use our dreams to torture the weak ones, the ones that can't really control their dreams yet and control where their spirit's going or anything like that. Evil spirits may trying to mess with these weaker spirits. And then the spirits continue. Furthermore, you will soon see another type of dreaming develop, a type as ancient as the kind you already know about, but of which you are ignorant. It is the dream of Joan of Arc, the dream of Jacob, the dream of the Jewish prophets, and certain Indian seers. This sort of dream is the remembrance of the soul entirely designated from the body, the memory of the other life of which I have just spoken to you. So here they're mentioning to us another type of dreaming, and they're saying this is kind of like an ancient type of dreaming. And they gave us some examples about Joan of Arc and the dream of Jacob and the dream of Jewish prophets and all these things. And they're saying that these sort of dreams, this is the remembrance of an entirely disengaged life. The soul completely disengaged from the body. And then the spirits continue. Try hard to distinguish between these two types of dreams among those you remember. Unless you do, you will fall into contradictions and errors that could be disastrous for your faith. So they're saying to keep in mind that the difference between these different types of dreams and about what you remember so that you don't have contradictions and that you don't make errors in what you're saying. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in and he says, dreams are a product of the emancipation of the soul, who becomes more independent through the suspension of active life and relationships. This result is a sort of fuzzy clairvoyance which extends to the most distant places, or to those that have never been seen, and sometimes even to other worlds. As it results in the remembrance of events that have taken place in our present existence or in our previous as well. The singularity of the images refer to what is occurring or has occurred on unknown worlds, mixed together with the images of the present world, form those bizarre, confusing medleys that seem to have neither meaning nor content. So what they're saying here is that dreams, again, are the emancipation of the soul. It's the soul is being free. And they're saying that there's parts of it that it's what the spirit's seeing, what the spirit's doing on near you or across the country, across the world, on other worlds. But it's also remembrances of what we've done in our past or what we think might happen in our future. And also mixing together the image of what the spirit is seeing and what we actually live in Earth, trying to make, like what our brain's trying to make sense in it. That's when we get these weird dreams that might be confusing. It might not be in any order. We might be unsure of. But it is a mix of all these things. Then Allan Kardec continues. The incoherence of dreams is further explained by the gaps resulting from the incomplete memory of what has appeared to us during the dream, much like a narrative from which sentences or parts of sentences have been accidentally omitted. If the remaining fragments were joined together, they would lose all rational meaning. So they're also saying how we can see how there's like kind of dreams mixed together and memories different mixed together and kind of different things mixed together, and we can see that how we never really remember the whole story of a dream. We remember bits and pieces of it, and then other bits and pieces that don't really fit in. So we have a bunch of these little fragments, and sometimes it may look like it doesn't have any meaning because it's like we got a puzzle piece and we put all the pieces wrong, so we can't really see the full picture of what actually might have happened. So that's the end of that question 402. I know we only got through 3 questions today, but they were very long questions, and it was important for us to take our time going through them. But before we leave off today, I'd like to leave off with our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone for today's date, September 5th. Beating the competition. Don't bother just to be better than your contemporaries or predecessors. Try and be better than yourself. Sports has given us the concept of personal best. The idea of our most important competition is with ourselves. Can we do better today than we did yesterday? Can we do even better tomorrow? Competing with ourselves is healthier than competing with others. For one thing, there is no way to cheat. For another, there can be no envy or resentment, no sore losing if we competing against ourselves. What do I want to improve on? I'll keep track of my personal best so that I can continually try to be better than myself. I'm Bia, and this is Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.